Hi folks, hope you're all well out there in the land of YouTube. I'm going to talk about this little board here, which is the intended use for this board is to hook up to a battery so you don't over discharge the battery, because of course that's pretty disastrous. That's not a good thing for to happen to a battery. So it's got a relay. It's based around a relay that disconnects the input from the output if it's out of parameter, and it's settable by these two buttons here, so you can set it to the upper and lower threshold with hysteresis. I'll show you what I mean about that in a minute. First of all though, I'm going to put a bit of tape over the screen there, so hopefully you'll be able to see it a little bit better. How's that? Right. Two buttons. At the moment, by default, after a timeout, it's showing the voltage coming from the supply of 13.8 volts. Well, that's a bit at odds with this meter here, 14.2 and 14.1.5 on there, so I trust those two. Don't trust that very much. It's out of calibration. Sloppy, very sloppy. I mean, I don't mind a few millivolts out, but that's just a bit too much to be. Anyways, you can compensate for that, but that's not the point. Right, so you got this board here. Basically, yeah, you just got two input there, two output. This one that's vacant, and it says that's for test only. Don't know what that means. A relay. So you got your common there, and that's normally closed, otherwise relaxed. That one's not used. And then yeah, a couple of other things on here. It's coming in. The power's coming in here. Goes over to that regulator, associated cap. That's the microcontroller. Not much more to it really. A couple of switches, a couple of LEDs, and yeah, a few voltage dividers or whatnot there. Nothing on the back of any interest. Right, so to set it up, it's by default it's showing 13.8 volts, which is a nominal voltage for a 12-volt battery. The top one shows the lower threshold. So that's set at 11.5 volts. That's as low as I'd want a 12-volt battery to go to. And then it defaults back to you to reading the voltage. If you want to change that lower threshold, press and hold. And that increments, top one increments, bottom one decrements. So we'll take that back to 11.5 volts. And to set it, there's no enter. You just let it time out. And there you are. The upper threshold is 12 volts, and again you just hold that down and down and up. Great. Now the reason, obviously the reason for having hysteresis in this is because if you've got a battery that's got a load on it and it starts discharging, then it'll disconnect. And the terminal voltage on the battery, of course, will start rising. It'll drift upwards. So this would just be shuttling, toggling up and down throughout the various bandwidths. So you can set that. That's quite nice to be able to do that. There is a little LED on here, and that indicates an error state. In other words, when the relay is de-energized. So if we at an ideal voltage here, if we drop the voltage down here, we're going to see it drop out at 12.5, but it doesn't drop out straight away. Just have to wait a second or two because it's got a time delay built in there. Again, this is to stop it cycling. Go on. Is it going to humour me? No, it's not, is it? What's going on here then? Oh, did I set it wrong? Hang on. Yeah, I didn't set it back. No, 11.5, yeah. So I want to go to down to 11.5, excuse me, brain fart. 11.5, yeah, and we're below 11.5. Nothing's happening for the moment until a time delay, and then it's gone into fault mode and it's disconnected the output. If I go up above 11.5, oh yes, we've gone above 12 now, haven't we? I think I'm going to shoot this whole sequence again. Right, start again on that one. Edit, edit, edit. I'm going to set the lower threshold for 12 volts. So we go down there. No, start again. Right, here we go. I will get it together. I'm going to set the lower threshold for 12 volts. The lower one is set with the upper knob. It's showing by default the voltage. And I'm going to hold that down. I'm going to go up to increment on the top button to 12 volts. Oh, I can't do that because this one's too low. $11. Good. This is all going to be edited out. Lower is at 11. Higher is 12. Yeah. Took me a while to work out how to program this and what was going on, because there were absolutely no instructions coming with this, apart from a few vagaries. So you got what you got. You got two buttons, and by default it's showing your battery terminal voltage. Although there is some disparity, as you can see. We can trust that. We can trust that. But would you trust that? Not really, because it's not very well calibrated. It's a bit shocking as it came out of the factory. But there we are. So your upper button sets the lower threshold. I'm setting the lower threshold here, indicates at 11, then it goes back to voltage reading. Ta-da! So to set that, hold it down, it will flash and you can then change it. I'm keeping this at 11 volts for the purpose of this demonstration. Likewise, the upper voltage is set for 12. If we want to change that, we'd hold it and up and down and let it time out, going back to the display voltage. So we're at 12.4 volts. That's between 11 and 12. No, sorry, that's above 12, which is the voltage at which it turns back on. So we're going to just take the voltage up here, 13.8, 0.9, 14 volts there. So that's a fairly high voltage across the terminals. Now, as your battery wears down, you go down and down and down, and I'm just using this for the sake of example. I wouldn't tend to let it go down this low, much below 12, but just for the sake of clarity. Down we go, and just above 11. Now we're just below 11. And it's not done anything yet, but after a set time period, the fault light comes on and the load is disconnected. So as well as the hysteresis, you've also got a slight time delay as you're going downwards. Now, as we go back up again, having restored power, and put the charger back on, so you're still above 11 and it's still in a fault condition. But as we get above 12, bingo, the power's back on again. And there we are, I assume we got nicely fully charged up. So that's how to set it. It depends on your configuration, whether you're solar powered or you just want to use it as a sort of something that should be maintained, but just to make sure the maintained power hasn't disappeared. In which case it will tell you. There's no bleeper on that. That'd be nice if there was a bleeper, wouldn't it? Don't you think? Or just an output for a bleeper. A bit of audible warning. But apart from that, was £3.69 from washing up on the shores of the Bay of E. Don't you just love it? It's got its faults. Calibration being the worst part of it, I think, really. And a lack of documentation. But apart from that, it's got its uses, hasn't it? I mean, that could save you a couple of £100 if your batteries are liable to go in a state of deep discharge and cause some troubles. There you go. Have a good one, guys. Stay safe. Be good.